Hello, lovely. I'm not going to start speaking straight away because the last couple of times that I've gone to do a live on social media, the it's taken a while for it to get going, and with the front end has been cut off like the first 15 seconds. So I think we're probably pretty good now. Anyway, it's day 17, and we are still looking at atomic habits. It's becoming quite a habit for us to talk about the habits. And where we're looking at today is we're looking at how we keep our habit going. So up until now, hopefully we've done quite a good job of putting those habits in place. But as you know, once it starts, it can be very difficult to keep things going. So according to research, the facts are that if we track our goals, we are more successful in achieving them. So we're more likely to stick to a habit if we track it. And I know for some of us, this is not for everyone. So some people who find that the whole thing far too challenging and too difficult to do. But I'd urge you to give it a try. Okay. So the truth is that as human beings, we're not very good judges of how well we're going with things. We think we're better than we are. If you look back, let's say you decided you were going to run 3 times a week, and if you haven't tracked it and you look back, you'll probably think you did a better job than you actually did. So some kind of habit tracking is really, really helpful. For one, it keeps us honest. And secondly, we become more motivated if we're tracking it. This is what the evidence says. Now, of course, different people have different ways of doing things, and maybe it doesn't work for you. But if you get a little bit excited about ticking things off a list or marking something as done, then a habit tracker is a really good way to go. So I don't know if you remember Jerry Seinfeld. If you're my age, of course, you will know of him as a comedian. And he always said that he would have to write a joke every day. It didn't matter if it was funny or not. He just had to write a joke every day, and he would mark it on his calendar. And his thing was, you can't break the chain. You mustn't break the chain. So you want to see all those crosses on the calendar, or however it is that you choose to track your habits. And the most effective form of motivation is when we see progress. And that's probably not so much an issue on the good days, but on a bad day, on a day when you really don't feel like it, or you're really busy, if you can look at that chain and see that you haven't broken it up until now, then you are much, much more likely to do the thing than to not to do the thing. And it's very satisfying to mark that on your calendar. Keeps you focused on the process rather than what the results are. Rather than having a load of funny jokes, it's just the process of writing those jokes every day, or whatever it is for you. And you remember, we've talked all the way through this about how everything is related to identity. So if you have decided you are the kind of person who writes jokes and is a funny person, and you've decided that what a funny person would do, or a professional comedian would do, you would write jokes every day, then this is visual proof that you are living that identity. And honestly, for me, it always comes back to identity. If I identify as a runner, if I identify as the kind of person who goes for a run 3 times a week, if I can see that I've tracked that, it's logged, it's all there, then I'm seeing visual proof that I am that, and it just helps reinforce the identity that I want it to be. So ideally, we make this as easy as possible. If there's a way to automate it, so for example, if you've got a Fitbit or something and it counts your steps, and your idea is that you want to do 10,000 steps every day, you allow the Fitbit to do all the hard work, and then maybe once a week you sit down and you collate that data and you see how that you've been going. And I think the other point that he makes is that if you're manually tracking and not leaving it to the Fitbit, for example, you're better off just tracking the really important ones and doing that really well. So track one thing and make sure you do that constantly, rather than trying to track lots of things and half doing it, rather than, try to at least stick to one thing and get that right. So for example, for me, I do track the days that I do a video on LinkedIn, because I want to be doing one every weekday. And if I've got a little spreadsheet and I can see, and there are days when I don't do it because we're not all perfect, but I certainly do it a lot more than I would if I wasn't tracking it. So of course, this brings to the point that it's inevitable that there's going to be days that we miss. If we're trying to do something daily, for example, there's always going to be a day that we miss for some reason. Maybe we're super busy, maybe we're not well, maybe we're traveling. And when that happens, then the idea is not to miss 2 in a row. Even if the next day you do it really imperfectly, or you do it for 3 minutes. We've talked before about having micro versions of your habits just to do the process, even if you don't do the thing that well. So you want to make sure that you don't go more than a day, or more than one time. You don't want to miss something twice, because that then becomes the new habit. And according to James Clear, we just don't really register how valuable it is to be doing it consistently, even if we're not doing it perfectly. So if it's about going to the gym, it's not about what happens in the workout. It's about being the kind of person who doesn't miss workouts. And so often, if we miss a day, we suddenly decide we're just not that person anymore. But if we do it the next day and then do it the next day, we get back into the mindset, back into that identity of the kind of person that does the thing, which for me really is what it's all about. Am I the kind of person who keeps the promises I make to myself? Am I the kind of person who, even if nobody is watching this video, the fact that I have done it is a cross on the calendar, or for me on the spreadsheet, and I can look at that and think, well, I'm the kind of person who turns up every day and does some video and talks to you. Have a fabulous rest of your day.